Morning all. So my name's Ben Dewale and I'm a MSc Environmental and Business Management student from Bangor University. I'm going to quickly summarise the three case studies that we covered here at Bangor. But I'd also like to acknowledge the work put into this project by Professor Gareth Griffiths from Bangor Business School as well, because he's put a lot of input into this project and he deserves the recognition despite the fact that unfortunately he can't be here today. So the first case study that we identified was Wilderness Brewery, which coincidentally are also based in Newtown. So, there seems to be a lot of circular economy focus in that area. So now they're a fairly new company. They were founded in 2017, but James, the owner, didn't properly start producing fine ales until 2019 for various reasons. Now, surprisingly, this was the only company that we interviewed that was actually founded with sustainability in mind. Now, this will make sense later, but owner and sole brewer James was very familiar with sustainability and the circular economy concept prior to founding Wilderness Brewery as a company. And he wanted to embed these ideas within his business model. So how did he go about this? Well, in his first approach was to source barrels for aging his products from other companies, other larger breweries, that were discarding them as waste. Now, there wasn't anything wrong with the barrels. However, after one or two batches have been through them, the flavouring can start to seep into the mix, and it doesn't make them any use for, these larger companies that want a very standardised, identical flavour. However, these barrels were perfect for the unique mixed fermentation beers that James wanted to brew, and it added that unique edge that he was looking for. Now, his next focus area was packaging. Now, initially, his beer was entirely produced and packaged in glass bottles due to the material's good recyclability. However, Wilderness underwent an LCA, life cycle assessment, as part of a wider study from Bangor University. And this actually identified that using tin cans due to the reduced mass of the packaging would actually be more beneficial to some of his beer production than glass from a sustainability perspective. And this prompted James to source a canning machine to utilize this analysis and become more sustainable and circular overall. Now, putting waste back into the system is a key element of the circular economy, and waste produced using the brewing process, most notably the sugar extract, is sent off to a local pig farmer to act as feedstock and is therefore put back into the system. And locality is an important word for James at Wilderness Brewery, and all the suppliers for items such as the hops that are needed for the brewing process, they're all located as physically, close to Newtown as possible. And the emissions from any deliveries are calculated, and James offsets them via supporting verified carbon reduction projects, and that's certified on his company website. And a small percentage of profit from each beer also goes directly to the Helsinki Foundation to support biodiversity. James said his only limit to how much he can do, aside from the economics of implementing certain things, is size. So in the future, he wants to relocate Wilderness Brewery to a larger premises, not to produce more beer, but to expand the circular economy and sustainable practices that he currently does. Now, a wastewater recovery system, as well as on-site solar panels, are the two big things that James has in mind for Wilderness. But he does want his company to eventually become entirely self-sufficient in terms of its energy usage, as well as being carbon negative rather than just carbon neutral. And so the second company that we identified was Jaspel's Craft Cider, located in Aberystwyth on Anglesey. Now, Jaspel's wasn't technically founded with sustainability in mind, but as joint owners, Ed and Jenny Percival weren't too aware of the topic. However, the practices that they initiated right from the get-go were absolutely sustainable, even if they didn't know it, and they were more than relevant to the circular economy as well. What makes Jaspel's unique as a cidery is that they don't own a single tree, not one, and they don't even have a contract with an orchard to supply them with the apples and pears required for production. So instead, what Jaspers do is rely exclusively on community donations in order to produce their product. Now, this concept originated when Ed Percival was in his 20s, and he used to, practice fermenting wines and ciders in his shed using fruit that he'd scavenged as a waste from the local community. So he'd found them in places such as hedgerows that weren't going to be used for anything. Now, many years later, after meeting his wife, Janet Percival, he rekindled this hobby, and together they launched a pilot scheme in 2015 to test the waters of how successful community donations of apples and pears would be. And it turns out the answer is very successful, with tens of kilos of apples flooding in just in the first year alone, resulting in them committing to opening Jaspers formally in 2016. Now, the first stage of the value chain at Jaspers involves using what was previously a waste product, and this is the principle the company is founded upon, turning waste into a fine product, and the owners are very proud and take a lot of pride in that fact. Now, Jaspers has had very low financial input, which has actually helped them become more efficient and sustainable naturally. So, for instance, Jaspers rely on a manual fruit press rather than a big shiny new automatic piece of kit. Now, this was done to keep costs down, but subsequently, this has also reduced the cidery's energy demands. And also, because it's such a labour-intensive cidery, it allows them to hire members of the community so they can have more staff on site, and that supports the local community in turn. Now, upon learning more and more about sustainability as a concept, which came entirely from their own observation and research, Jaspers started considering their own waste and now sends their waste apple pomace to a local pig farmer to act as a feedstock, with any excess being composted on site if there's too much waste to supply to just the farmer alone. In the future, Jaspers wants to spread the positive message that many things considered waste can be reused and converted into a high quality, desirable final product. Jaspers have also been involved in a project with Penatech and Bangor University to convert the waste pomace into a food product, which they hope to be available in the next few years. But in the short term, they want to increase production to further limit the amount of apples and pears that are going to waste within the Isle of Anglesey. And the final company that we identified, which I believe we have a video for after this presentation, is Poblado Coffee. Now, not only do they have an exciting backstory, but the amount of waste reusal concepts running through the company means that they almost have entirely zero waste within the value chain process. Poblado was founded in 2013 by Stefan in a shed at the bottom of his garden, but relocated to the current premises when business partner Sean joined the company in 2016. Poblado's backstory is incredible to listen to. It began in 2003 when the owner Stefan lived in a town called El Poblado in Medellin, Colombia. Now, it was here that Stefan worked on a coffee farm, and he learned everything there is to know about coffee, from cultivation to the final product that I imagine a lot of you, like myself, have drank today. So after traveling to other locations to learn about coffee, including Stefan's recent trip to Uganda, he came back to Wales to open up a coffee business with beans sourced from around the world. Now, originally, Poblado Coffee was founded as an ethical company rather than a sustainable one, and the focus was on sourcing coffee beans directly from the coffee growers, paying well above the prices required for fair trade, allowing the farmers to look after their land more, and in turn improving things such as biodiversity, as well as the quality of the coffee. Now, you could argue then that Poblado's circular economy outreach is international almost, as inefficient land cultivation will diminish the soil quality, effectively making waste of a farming area if viewed from this sort of perspective. Now, later down the line, Stefan realised that it makes little sense to focus on the sustainability of the coffee farms without performing the same analysis on his own company's practices. So initially, Poblado received community demands to reuse the coffee sacks that the beans are delivered in, and these are turned into plant pots, bags, and even Christmas stockings, which can now be purchased from Poblado's website. And then the chaff produced from the roasting process, which is a waste product, is collected in a reusable bag and taken to a commercial composting site for reuse, with any excess that they can't take being composted directly on site. Now, one of the most groundbreaking innovations at Pub Lardo, however, is the packaging, which is 99% compostable. Now, the reason for the 99 and not the 100 is because a small paper clip is required to attach the card label to the compostable bag. Now, initially, the inner lining that is typically made from plastic or glue was replaced with a natural substance known as polylactic acid, which forms a resin layer, and it performs the same job as regular plastic, but is compostable. And then the sticky labels, due to the chemicals in the glue, which are sometimes toxic, they were removed for card labels, which is where the paper clip then comes into play with the packaging. In the future, Stefan wants to expand Pub Lardo's coffee production in order to benefit more coffee farms across the globe, improving biodiversity in the process. The next tangible goal is for Pub Lardo Coffee to purchase an electric vehicle to carry out deliveries. Currently, Pub Lardo hires one weekly from a local community enterprise, but this limits the potential outreach of the company as they can only use the van one day a week. Becoming self-sufficient in terms of energy production is also on Pub Lardo's mind, but due to their relatively small energy demands, the attention has been focused more on the packaging and product delivery side so far in the company. And that is everything from me this morning. Thank you all for listening, and thank you to the companies I've worked with as well during this process. It's been a really great experience. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and the video for Pub Lardo.
So I'm Stefan Hughes. I started Pub Lardo Coffee almost 9 years ago, and we are specialty coffee roasters, where we roast, grind and sell our coffee to both wholesale and individual customers. We try our best to be as sustainable as we can, where we reuse, recycle, rehash as much of the waste that we generate, and also put focus on trying to be as environmentally sensitive as we can, buying from ethical sources. Packaging was probably the biggest waste area that we were generating. For the first few years, our bags were non-compostable. So we have now moved across to compostable bags. Also, we've started delivering coffee in tubs for some of our larger customers. So there's no packaging at all. We just replenish the stock of coffee. So another thing that we have encouraged our customers to do, those who come and visit, is to bring their own receptacle, and we incentivise that by offering a discount. There's no packaging at all. They're bringing their own bag, and we just weigh, grind or beans into their Tupperware jar or tin tub or whatever. If it's a nice sealed container, then the coffee will stay fresher for longer. So during the roasting process is quite a lot of chaff that's created. We gather all that and mix it with the coffee grounds, and we have a few people who take those bags off us to add to their own compost, and we've actually got our own compost going here as well. Coffee grounds are renowned for being very good for growing vegetables, so we don't waste any of that, it's all used. So our plans for the future is to continue to develop this side of what we do. We'd like to become more self-sufficient in the energy that we produce and ensure that the waste that we produce is actually being reused, recycled, or actually creating something else that can be used or sold. So yeah, we're just going to continue to develop this side of the business.